Hello and welcome. This is Linda. Happy to have you with me. I want to show you this how I'm doing on this wall hanging, this stitch sampler wall hanging that I'm working on. As you can see, I did get 8 of the little stitch sampler 3x3 squares tacked onto the background. Now I'm working on the decorating part of the top layer, and as you can see, I'm doing that with scraps across, like a scrap ribbon, and then different fringes that I'm putting across there. And I'm going to take some of these blue flowers that I got at the estate sale, and I'm going to sew those into on this down this row of fringe. Put that in here. But I also wanted to talk seriously about something that's really important to me as a fiber artist and stitcher in the community here in YouTube. And it doesn't have anything to do with anything that anybody's doing wrong. It's just a perception of how I feel about slow stitching and how I would like to inspire others. And so I want to clarify a couple of things about myself and how I view that, and I hope you understand, and maybe it will fit you and make you feel more comfortable in your own skin as a fiber artist or stitcher or whatever it is that you're doing with needle and thread. Let's start off with the term slow stitching. We all know, if we've been around very long in the community, that slow stitching basically refers to a style of hand sewing or stitching where you are more into the moment, into the repetitive stitching that you're doing, the relaxation of it, than you are into the destination of it or purpose of it or vision of it. It's more about just leaving all that aside and just stitching in the moment, giving yourself time to breathe, time to meditate if you want to, or time to zone out. It's basically is what is being imported by that. It's hard for me to talk and do anything else too. I have a one-track mind. But anyway, I got to get some thread here. And so while slow stitching is, for me, is just another word that's basically synonymous with just handwork, hand stitching. Slow stitching is hand stitching. And at times, I have put a lot of titles on here that say slow stitching. But in fact, I'm looking back and thinking, that's not really what it is, Linda. You're not really slow stitching. And you need to make that clear. Because when I stitch, I have a purpose. I have a vision. So I'm going to use the phrase for my style of vision stitching. If anyone asks you how Icky, Chic, or Linda stitches, it's vision stitching. It's really not slow stitching. Because I'm very much into the purpose and the destination. Now, you've heard me say many times that I don't know many times where I'm going to end up, and I don't. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a vision when I start. I do. I do know, for instance, when I started this piece, that I wanted to do a sampler. I wanted to do a few simple stitches on here some way. I wanted it to be a wall hanging when I got through. I wanted it to stay true to my scrappy style that I love so much. Uh, I wanted to use bits and pieces of different textiles, and my destination for this piece is to hang it on the wall. So while I may sit and work on any particular piece of it in a very relaxed mode, and you might call that slow stitching, I'm really not zoned out. I'm really not ever forgetting about where I'm going. The vision is there. Sometimes the vision is not clear, but I know the direction of the vision. And so I work in the moment, yes, but I work intuitively toward the direction of the vision in my head. Most people who are slow stitching are actually vision stitching. They have design, they have intent, they have purpose, and they have a destination. It's not just picking up needle and thread and start stitching and not worrying about where we're going. Not very many people actually do that. You can do that. I'm not saying you can't, and I'm not also saying that it's wrong, because it can be very relaxing. It can be very therapeutic to just simply get some fabric and start what I call just plain running stitch, straight stitching, and just repetitively doing that. If you're anxious, if you've got problems, if things are really eating at you, sitting down and doing that repetitive movement, slow and easy, and over for long enough will put you in a different mindset. And that's a good thing when you need it. But it's not, it's very, to me, when I think about the term slow stitching and how it might be perceived, to me it's very limiting, and it will in effect to me kill your creativeness, because it's not telling you to keep your vision, to keep your destination in mind, to create, build as you go. So that is what I want to start focusing on in my channel. I want my watchers to understand that I'm probably not going to use the term slow stitching as much as I have done in the past, because I want to replace it with vision stitching, and as my style and my take on what I'm doing here. Now, please, this doesn't apply to any other artisan here on YouTube. This applies to me. This is what I'm doing. And remember, I'm trying to do me very well. And so understanding me and doing me means that I have to understand the terms that I'm using too, and being able to apply those correctly, so that anyone who wants to listen, learn, or apply anything that I demonstrate here will have better understanding. So vision stitching. What is vision stitching? Vision stitching is exactly the opposite of slow stitching, in that the destination is everything. The destination is the important thing, the being able to reach a visionary destination, a cloudy, foggy destination that you begin to create as a creator, and you begin to work toward it even though you don't know exactly where it's at. And but the more you work on your project, the more clear that vision becomes. And as that vision becomes clearer, so does your destination. Sometimes you have a clear destination in the beginning, like I do for this one. My destination is a wall hanging. So all the decisions that I make because I know my destination. Even though I'm working intuitively, I'm not graphing all this out or scripting it all out. I'm making this as I go with what's around me, what I see, what inspires me, what I want to play with. I still am working toward the destination with the vision that I have for this piece. So if you're here with me and you're doing some of the things I'm doing, we're going to change that term from slow stitching to vision stitching. Okay. And I want you to think about your destination. I want you to think about your vision, because that's when you begin to be an artist. You have a vision, you have an inspiration, you have a destination you want to make. You want to get there. You're not exactly sure where it's at. What are you going to do? What choices are you going to make to get there? And this is when you get very creative and very artistic. And you take your slow stitching, you might say, to the next level. And that, I think, is a wonderful thing. It's real progress and it's real fun, because there's nothing better than designing and creating your own things. There's nothing better than doing you very well. There's nothing better than being totally satisfied with every stitch that you put in. And it's just wonderful. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, and that you'll try to think about the projects that you start in a vision stitching mode. Where am I going with it? What am I going to do with it? You know, when you're slow stitching, I've talked to many people, and it seems like a lot of the pieces that are slow stitched end up in a drawer, never to see the light of day, because they didn't have a purpose. They didn't have a destination. They didn't have a vision to start with. So when they got through stitching, hand stitching this piece, it got put in a drawer. We don't want that to happen. So when we stitch with a vision, we know what's going to happen to this piece when we get through with it. We know where it's going. Well, we've already given it purpose in life. And isn't it a true fact that anything that has a purpose, the purpose increases the value? And so you begin to value your work more. It has a purpose, and you have something to do with it and a reason to do it. It also gives you a reason to stitch every day if you can. This is not anything that's complicated or revolutionary or controversial. Anybody who wants to label their work slow stitching, that is perfectly their decision. But I just want to start labeling mine vision stitching. And I wanted to make this video so that those of you who visit my channel will understand what vision stitching is to me and why it's important for me to use that term rather than slow stitching, okay? And I think it has probably a lot to do with just me doing me and keeping true to my vision, because, you know, I just woke up the other morning and I thought, you're using the wrong term and you're misleading people who are listening to you, because you're not really slow stitching. You are very concerned about the destination the whole time you're stitching. You know, you had a vision before you began. You have a purpose for that piece. All of that is contrary to slow stitching. So there's room for both slow stitching and vision stitching. Whatever you need to do at the time to be true to you, that's what you do. You do you. If you need to slow stitch that day because life is kicking you around, you know, then definitely do slow stitching. If you want to be creative that day and you want to exercise some of your talents and create something with a purpose, then vision stitch. And recognize the difference in the two and make them work for you. Make each one work for you. You control them. You know when to use them and what to call them. You don't have to feel guilty because you're sitting there supposedly slow stitching, but you have a real purpose and you're concerned about it. That's why you picked that color and this pattern and that thing and what so forth, because you have a purpose in mind and you don't forget it. So now you're guilty because you're not supposed to be stitching with a destination in mind. You're supposed to be totally stitching in the moment. Well, if you're not doing that, don't feel guilty. Just change your term. You're vision stitching. You're not slow stitching. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'll get off my little soap box here, so to speak, but I just want you to know why some of the titles may look different on some of my videos, because I want to clarify, for all of you exactly what I'm doing, in case you like what I do and you want to do the same thing. You'll understand more of what my mindset is and what I'm actually doing. And I'm not actually slow stitching, as the definition of it explains. So it's a really broad term, I know, and it's used really broadly, but we can understand it a little better and work with it a little better than I've been doing here. And I apologize for that. I should have put more thought into that in the beginning. But it kind of, when I first thought of it, okay, that sounds all right, because I definitely do work in the moment. I don't design ahead of time everything. I do it intuitively. I do find it relaxing, so I guess I'm slow stitching. Well, I should have thought about it just a little bit more. And I apologize to all of you for just being too ambiguous about it. Okay, do you like that? I think that sets that row off really pretty, and it sewed down my trim at the same time as I was tacking down all of that. Okay, that is really cool. I love that. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to put in here. I have some more little squares, but then I thought, I got enough squares. I need something else. I might do a couple of medallion flowers. I think that would be a totally different look. So here we are, designing in the moment. We're designing intuitively. I don't feel like I want to continue the squares. Not sure exactly what I want to go here, but I think if I change the shape, that would be very complementary to the squares and to the trim that I've put up here. This is a wall hanging. I do want it to have a focus of interest all the way down. So if that changes, that keeps a person interested. And so I think that's what I'm going to do, make 2 medallion flowers for in here. So we'll see on the next video if that's really what I do. Now, I have a video up where I talk about the stitching marathon that I'm hosting on my Facebook group on May 3rd through the 5th. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on that weekend, the goal is simply to stitch as many hours as you can. If you're not a member of my Facebook group and feel like doing that, please use the link in this description of this video and come on over and join us and sign up for the event, the marathon event. And I'm going to be definitely finishing this that weekend, and I've got 2 or 3 things cooking that I want to work on during that weekend to see how many hours I can stitch in 3 days. I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row so I can really devote myself to like a retreat, but we're all at home. And we can devote as many hours as we can to our craft and our stitching. And then in the Facebook group, you can post pictures. You can post how many hours each day you work. You can encourage each other, however you want to do it. But we're just going to have a lot of fun with that. So that being said, we're going to hold this here. And the next video, you'll see what I ended up doing. It may change, you know how intuitively my mind works in every direction at one time. But right now I'm thinking medallions. So thank you so much for being with me. And remember, stay scrap happy.